It's Tuesday, January 27th. This is CTV at 6. Here's what's making news tonight. Closures and cancellations as the cleanup continues on Maritime streets and highways. Once a hub of government activity, what's holding back the Centennial Building?
Flurries at times this week, but it's late into the weekend that we need to watch for the next storm.
Live from our Maritimes News Center, this is CTV News at 6. Here is Todd Battis.
Good evening. Maritimers woke up to round 2 of the latest nor'easter. This was another day of storm cleanup, closures, and cancellations in much of the region. CTV's Emma Convey reports.
Snowbanks continue to pile up around the Halifax area as many dig their way out of their driveways.
I love it. It's wonderful. It's not too bad out here. The snow's so light and fluffy, so it's just super easy to move this time.
The only thing I don't like is clean it. That's it.
Cleanup crews worked to clear priority 1 and 2 routes throughout Halifax last night.
Crews have had no issues with moving it around. The extra serving of snow that we got overnight just kind of put us back a little bit because we made a lot of progress yesterday. Crews were getting onto residential streets, and then we got quite a bit more snow overnight, which has just put them back on the main roads.
Snow routes for Halifax Transit were still in effect, and parks and recreation facilities have reopened.
Everything's slowly getting back to normal. I know libraries delayed until noon.
For the third time in 10 days, schools were closed in Halifax.
Snow, inclement weather, icy road conditions, and lack of visibility. Specifically, when we're talking about today, there was an additional snowfall over the course of the evening, around 8 to 12 centimeters across HRM.
It also came down to side roads, sidewalks, and school grounds needing to be cleared.
Of course, can't really guess at this point, but based on the forecast, we expect everything to be back up and running tomorrow.
Many restaurants, including this Italian cafe, were closed Monday, a first time since opening 2 years ago.
We were lucky to close just one day because a lot of the people that work with us, they have a problem to come in for the bus. The bus was not all available, and so we decided to be closed.
They're just grateful to welcome back customers.
Thank you to the municipality because they take care very well to the street. I just have some complaint from my client about the sidewalk because it's not clean yet.
And that sidewalk cleanup continues right now, Todd. Now, the overnight parking ban is back into effect again tonight, but important to note, it's not just tickets. Vehicles are actually being towed as well. The city tells us they actually towed 55 vehicles Sunday overnight and 23 last night. So if you were planning to park on the street tonight, you might want to reconsider it. Todd.
All right, Emma, those cars behind you clearly will have to move. Emma Convey in Halifax starting us off. Thank you. Now, the travel day got off to a pretty rough start at the region's largest airport. Operations at Halifax Stanfield were stopped as ground crews struggled with those conditions. That backed up flights in and out. CTV's Jonathan McGuinness tells us there are still some delays on the board.
The long-lasting storm forced a 3.5-hour closure of runways this morning at Halifax Stanfield International Airport. The decision was made to double the amount of winter operations staff in an attempt to clear those landing strips.
That's what the crews are actually battling today, is that drifting, blowing snow that's already on the airfield.
That delay added to Monday's standstill, when the majority of the 120 scheduled arrivals and departures were disrupted.
Yesterday, we had about 2/3 of the total scheduled flights that were scheduled to operate were canceled.
Today's flights resumed just before noon. Michelle Tarian is one passenger who wasn't complaining about the delay.
I actually left my suitcase at home with my passport, so this gives time for someone to rush my passport over, so I'm not that upset.
On top of worrying about getting her passport in time for her flight, Tarian has her 17-year-old cat with her.
Mostly I worry about it being stressful for him. I wouldn't mind the delay myself, but he's anxious and confused, but he's a frequent flyer for a cat.
Well, my travel plans were to head home on the weekend.
Jennifer Amos is waiting for a flight too. She had to rebook because of the storm. Now she's waiting for her plane to come in from Toronto, where Pearson International is still recovering from a record 46-centimeter snowfall.
I booked the day off work just to be available for travel, but if I don't get back, then it it will impact me tomorrow.
Amos is confident she'll get out today, but with significant impact to several North American airports, officials in Halifax say it could still be a couple days before flight schedules are back to normal for others hoping to board their flights. Well, Todd, we heard Tiffany Chase say there were 80 cancellations yesterday. That number is down to 30 today, and that's due to a mix of the weather here and at other airports with connections to Halifax Stanfield. Todd.
All right, John at Halifax Stanfield International Airport. There's a look at Fredericton right now in the downtown where it's a frigid minus 12 degrees already. Let's bring in Kaylin Mitchell, their first look at the forecast. And boy, those cold temperatures hanging around, low digits, just like big digits on the snow.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, snow moved out, but the cold is here to stay for the rest of this week. I do have some somewhat more finalized snowfall reports from around the Maritime region for that long duration weather event that we had. Basically started late Sunday night, continued right on into Tuesday morning for parts of the Maritimes. Across the southern half of New Brunswick, fairly widespread, 15 to 25 centimeters of snow. 25 centimeters is reported from a snow on ground sensor at Grand Manan, but I did receive a viewer report from the Grand Manan area that totals could have been closer to 30 or 40 centimeters. Certainly possible with the amount of drifting that was going on with this powdery snow. Another big bullseye for snow amounts was in northern and western areas of Nova Scotia, where there's a fairly widespread 30 to 40 centimeters reported. And then in eastern areas of Nova Scotia, don't even have final totals yet from in and around the Cape Breton area. There was an early morning report from Sydney Forks near 24 centimeters of snow, but there was still some snow falling and accumulating at that time. In Prince Edward Island, about 15 centimeters of snow through Prince County. In Kings and Queens counties, though, some snowfall reports between 20 and 27 centimeters. And behind it for tonight, we're left with colder temperatures, partly cloudy skies, and scattered flurries. If you did want to take your chances with those partly cloudy skies, there are a couple things you could see in the night sky. It is a waxing gibbous moon, 68% illuminated. That'll be above the eastern horizon this evening. Planet Saturn will be setting on the western horizon near 9 p.m. And if the cloud cover cooperates, there should be a really good pass from the International Space Station starting at around 6:28 p.m., 6 minutes in length from the northwest to the southeast, and that one rising a fair bit high in the sky. Todd.
Okay, Kaylin, I know you'll be telling us about another potential round of weather coming up. We'll wait for the full forecast. Thank you. An update now on that deadly plane crash in neighboring Maine Sunday night. Bangor International Airport remains closed as investigators search for a cause. Witnesses and authorities say the private jet was attempting to take off when it crashed, flipped over, and caught fire. The FAA in the States initially reported 8 people may have been on board, but now confirms 6 people were on the plane and all 6 were killed. The Bombardier CL-600 had landed in Bangor to refuel while traveling from Houston to Paris. Officials say weather conditions, mechanical failure, and pilot error will all be examined as part of the investigation into that crash. Well, the weather has certainly had an enormous impact, and we have the latest reporting as well as forecasts being updated on our website at ctvnewsatlantic.ca. Police are investigating offenses of what they call of a sexual nature with at least a dozen victims between their 70s and 90s at a St. John nursing home. Police say they've identified a suspect, but no charges have been announced. We turn to CTV's Nick Moore for the latest.
The St. John Police Force said it received information from a long-term care facility last week that has led to an investigation of alleged sexual offenses at the location. A memo from Loch Lomond Villa was sent to the families of residents on Friday, saying the administration had become aware of a serious situation at the village that had become a police investigation. St. John Police say the family members of 12 residents have been notified about the investigation and that there's a possibility that there will be more families notified in the future. The age of the victims range from their 70s to their 90s. Police say a suspect has been identified but did not provide additional information of any pending charges on Tuesday. Police say the suspect is not a resident nor a staff member. Health Minister Dr. John Dornan was asked about the investigation today at an unrelated announcement but did not share any information.
I can confirm that the residents that are there are safe, that they're not at risk of further violations.
In a statement, Loch Lomond Villa CEO Ashley King says existing safety protocols remain in place and additional measures have been implemented, including the presence of an on-site security company. Loch Lomond Villa continues to review and strengthen procedures to support resident safety. Cecile Casista is the executive director of the Coalition for Seniors and Nursing Home Residents' Rights.
But we're talking about people that are vulnerable, that basically are not able to speak for themselves. And it's so sad when these kinds of things happen. I'm really pleased that the home did reveal or make it open, because I'm a firm believer that if it had gone directly to social development, I don't think we'd know as much as we know today.
The Department of Social Development did not have any comment today, except to say it was an ongoing investigation. St. John Police say a dedicated phone line has been established for families of affected residents so they can speak directly to an investigator. Nick Moore, CTV News, St. John.
Ride-sharing companies won't have to follow the same rules as Halifax taxis, at least not for now. Regional Council voted down a motion that would have compelled outfits like Uber to operate under the same regulations as cab companies. CTV's Callum Smith explains.
How many? I don't know.
Halifax doesn't know how many rideshare drivers it has due to a lack of data sharing between the companies, such as Uber, and the city. A disappointing surprise for city councillors.
That troubles me.
But the new acting manager of licensing standards says companies will soon act.
They have committed to start that data next month.
Currently, HRM licenses taxi drivers individually and rideshare companies as whole entities. So if there's an issue with a driver, the city can issue a $235 fine to the company or revoke the company's license. Councillor Kathy Daigle-Gammon was taken aback learning staff found a gap in regulations regarding rideshare driver eligibility to work if they have a criminal conviction, especially having 26 nieces or nephews.
If I think that one of them is in a car with a driver who had a criminal conviction, then I feel awfully responsible as an investigator as we have to make this vote.
Currently, rideshare companies, or TNCs, collect background checks while taxi drivers submit them to the city. Staff recommended more oversight of ride-sharing companies, bringing them in line. Uber has said that would add costs for drivers and require duplicated training.
The TNCs should be operating by the same rules as our taxi drivers are. My big concern was the criminal records check and insurance regulations. I want to make sure that anybody enters in a TNC rideshare drive is going to be safe.
But that motion was defeated, led by the mayor, who says more discussion needs to happen with key players.
To bring the taxi industry, the TNC industry, and HRM regulators to the table so that we can map out a way to harmonize the two regulation of the two services together in a way that keeps costs down and limits regulatory burden.
But Fillmore says reporting criminal record checks to HRM will absolutely be part of future requirements.
They need to provide data that allows us to understand who's driving, what their safety record is, if they pose any risks, and so forth.
The mayor highlighted the staff recommendation would have gone against almost all other cities in the country. The casino taxi president tells me he's disappointed but not surprised with council's direction, saying the recommendation was not overly burdensome and accused some councillors of stretching the truth and providing alarmist talking points. An Uber spokesperson says they're pleased with the vote and that HRM can request information such as background checks similar to other jurisdictions. Todd.
All right, but that doesn't necessarily put the issue to bed. You said there could be more down the road.
Absolutely. There was more to come for sure.
All right, we'll watch for that. CTV's Callum Smith in the News Center with us tonight. New Brunswick is bringing back elected members of the public to its two health authority boards. Horizon and Vitalité boards used to have both elected and appointed members until 3 years ago. Those were eliminated by the Blaine Higgs government after the death of a patient in an ER waiting room. The change needs legislation, but the health minister says it's a necessary change.
Well, there is a crisis today. Our boards are very proactive in getting us through that, dealing with emergency departments, ALC patients, primary care. And I think that we can augment that by increasing transparency, by having elected people on those boards.
Horizon and Vitalité need to be consulted on the move, so it's not likely elected members will be in place until a 2030 election cycle. A key witness for the Crown said he heard gunshots at the home of a couple murdered in Dieppe more than 6 years ago. Jansen Baker is accused of those killings. CTV's Derek Haggett now on the trial from Moncton Court.
Court heard from a Crown witness who testified that he drove with Jansen Baker to a Dieppe neighborhood in the early morning hours of September 7, 2019, the same day that Bernard and Rosemary Saunier were shot and killed inside their home. A key witness for the Crown testified Baker, a longtime friend, drove him to Dieppe in a Hyundai Sonata well after midnight. Zachary Travers told the court he didn't know why he was there, but was concerned. The pair left the vehicle. Travers says he went into the Saunier sunroom for a few minutes and then left. From the patio, he told the court he could see Baker pointing his hands in the air and yelling something like, "Lay on the ground," but couldn't see anyone else. Travers told the jury he made his way back to the parked car when he heard a scream and two bangs. The bangs sounded like a gunshot, according to the witness. When Baker returned to the car, he placed a handgun under the driver's seat, Travers said. Travers told the court he was angry and wanted to go home. He testified the accused warned him to never talk about what took place. During cross-examination, the defense asked Travers if he killed the Sauniers. He denied killing the elderly couple, saying he was outside. The defense asked Travers why he never mentioned the scream when he spoke to police in 2022. When Travers was re-examined by the Crown, he admitted he lied to police when he said he didn't hear anything. The witness testified today that he definitely heard a scream the night of the murders. 29-year-old Jansen Baker has pleaded not guilty to 2 counts of first-degree murder. Derek Haggett, CTV News, Moncton.
For centuries, Nova Scotia chugged along on coal. It paid salaries, warmed homes, and fueled industry. But in 4 years' time, it will be history. The province insists wind will satisfy much of the energy demand. CTV's Jesse Thomas was at a government update today.
Nova Scotia's Deputy Minister of Energy says the shift to renewable power is well underway, and although the 2030 deadline to get off coal is near, the province is confident they'll meet their green energy targets soon, with the help of onshore wind development.
There'll be 5 projects on completion by the end of 26. Then we have 4 more by the end of 28, and that will bring us very close to our 70, probably 75, 78%.
Since 2022, the province has contracted 9 wind farms expected to deliver nearly 1,000 megawatts of electricity, replacing a significant need for coal power. While construction work remains, the Deputy Minister doesn't expect they'll need to ask Ottawa for any extension.
At this point, we don't really think we need to. You know, we're well on our way to be 80% by 2030. Certainly, I guess if something catastrophic happened, we'd have to open up that conversation. But
the grid won't be fully renewable by then. 80% will be. As a backup, the province is building 2 quick-start natural gas plants for when energy demand is high and in emergencies.
And what we see in the Clean Power Plan is these fast-acting natural gas units that can turn on and be up to full power in 10 minutes. It would take a coal plant probably 24 hours to achieve that.
Important for a backup plan as Nova Scotia Power asks customers to conserve energy usage during the weekend cold snap. This, where demand on the grid reached an all-time high of nearly 2,500 megawatts. The province says they aren't concerned about grid capacity in the future as they look to expand transmission and share power with other provinces.
And the larger we can make our system through the intertie with New Brunswick, potentially through the transmission associated with Wind West in the future, the more resources we can share across jurisdictions. So if you have a single fault, it doesn't cause any major problems.
There were no planned power outages over the weekend as a result of the peak usage. Jesse Thomas, CTV News, Halifax.
This is our CTV web poll tonight. We're asking, do you agree with phasing out coal plants in favor of wind energy? Simple yes or no will do. Let us know what you think at ctvnewsatlantic.ca.
Get the Maritime's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
For years, it stood at the center of provincial government. But Fredericton's Centennial Building is a shell of what it once was, a source of wasted years and opportunity. CTV's Laura Brown has more on what's holding up development.
It was built as a monument to Canada's 100th birthday and housed the halls of power for almost half a century. But for over a decade now, the Centennial Building has sat empty, shadowed by its replacement that sits across the street.
I would like to see it utilized. It's just sad that
sitting vacant for so long.
It's certainly an opportunity that's ripe for the taking, and I think that all parties that have been involved have an obligation to the community to come together and find a path forward.
That path forward is hard to see. The building has seen some twists and turns since becoming vacant 13 years ago. A possible courthouse under the Brian Gallant Liberal government. The Blaine Higgs Conservative government put a stop to that, selling it for $4 million 6 years ago to Centennial Heritage Properties, a private company that initially proposed turning the building into this, with apartments and retail space. But a year ago, almost to the day, the company presented a design change to this, which was rejected by the city's Planning Advisory Committee. Since then, no updates. It sits a quiet construction site. The developer recently telling CTV News in an email they are reviewing cost information and there's not much else to report.
It is difficult.
Adam Peabody says the area has so much promise. The new Playhouse and Justice buildings are going up a block away, going from concept to completion in less than half the time the Centennial Building has sat idle.
All of us, that do business and work, that move by it on a Saturday morning going to the market, look at it and hopefully see the possible and not just the kind of unsightliness that exists with the state it's in today.
Once an integral part of city life, the building's future remains uncertain. Laura Brown, CTV News, Fredericton.
Time for our first break on this Tuesday night. Cold with isolated flurries this evening. Kalen Mitchell has his maritime forecast ahead. But first, Jughead would be envious.
We are over 2,000 burgers sold. It's been a huge success.
Eat more burgers. Help more restaurants. Why, it's all about the burgers in Moncton right now. Burger Week is a highlight of the winter calendar in Moncton. It often offers diners a chance to try something new, but it also offers a lifeline for restaurants to stay in the black during a typically quiet month. CTV's Derek Haggett has more.
Business is pretty good at the oldest tavern in New Brunswick, but like many bars and eateries, things do slow down at this time of year. The owner has seen a boost in business lately, thanks in part to the Moncton Burger Festival.
Quite often January in the Maritimes isn't ideal for business, getting people out. It's cold.
The Chris Rock is one of 60 participating establishments in the greater Moncton area. Every promotion helps because it's not easy for owners to deal with the high cost of living and the rising price of food.
Incredibly hard. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of rolling your sleeves up and, diving in.
It's been a huge hit at the Igloo Beverage Room.
As of right now, we are over 2,000 burgers sold. It's been a huge success, and we see a lot of new faces in.
The owners say it's amazing what the Burger Festival does for the volume of sales.
We look at the numbers every day, and it really is amazing what that festival does for our overall business.
January isn't necessarily the slowest time of year at Cheers, but they welcome the extra business the Burger Fest brings.
We're averaging about 100 burgers a day. Out of the gate, we were 150 to 200 the first weekend.
But it's still hard to run a business in these challenging economic times while keeping prices low.
Costs go up, labor costs go up, everything's going up, and you try to keep the price, especially where you're, we consider ourselves like a neighborhood pub where we try to give great value for our customers.
But it's a lot of fun for burger lovers who take part.
It's the best. People are always in a good mood. Again, January, seeing people in a good mood makes me happy.
The Burger Festival wraps up on Saturday. Derek Haggett, CTV News, Moncton.
Okay, I'll take one of those Chris Rock Royales. 2. Kalen wants one too. And speaking of Kalen, he will have the maritime forecast after this. That's a live shot of the train station at Macadam, where it's currently minus 11 degrees. And Kalen Mitchell, you figure they've got, what, 15 to 20
About that, I would say, just based on other reports that came in from sort of that area in the southwest of New Brunswick. Again, a fairly widespread portion of the southern half of New Brunswick picked up about 15 to 25 centimeters of snow out of that weather system.
But hang on, McAdam, you and everyone else has the opportunity to add many, many more centimeters to that.
You are, of course, referring to the potential for another nor'easter to develop this weekend.
This little thing.
Yeah, and so here's where this one is expected to start. The Gulf of Mexico, Friday afternoon, is a pretty standard low pressure system. Then it makes its way towards the southeastern seaboard of the United States off the coastline of the Carolinas. It's in a nice spot there because it's sitting between very cold air over the continent and much warmer, milder air over to the Atlantic. It's basically perfect conditions, jet fuel for one of these weather systems to sort of spin up. And then after that, it's expected to move northward up towards and past Cape Cod as we move towards the end of the weekend. And that's where it becomes, of course, more of a concern for us here in the Maritimes. Here's a look at a forecast model, kind of just playing out that path shown by that low pressure system. So there it goes, moving up towards the Carolinas. And you can see the isobars here being indicated through the lines of white. More of those making an appearance, starting to collect in greater density around the center of that low. That shows it's strengthening. And then here's the northward movement. And yes, the potential that here in the Maritimes we could be getting into some heavy snow from it. Potential right now, because there has been some uncertainty with this type of weather system. That's pretty common with these type of weather systems this far out in the forecast. You do or should anticipate some fairly significant change on a day-by-day basis until you get within about 3 days, so 72 hours. So that'll be coming up later this week. And from this point till then, we'll just continue to monitor it and see what developments it has with it and whether or not the likelihood is increasing for us here in the Maritimes to catch some more heavy snow from that next system. And again, that would be towards the end of the weekend and into the start of next week. In the meantime, as we make our way through tonight, partly cloudy conditions, colder temperatures, and scattered flurries. Now, in the flurries for tonight, there is the potential of some localized snowfall amounts from 1 to 5 centimeters in parts of the west of Nova Scotia and in areas of Victoria County in Cape Breton, especially the Cape Breton Highlands. There are still some flurries streaming in off the Gulf of St. Lawrence right now. Cold start to the day for tomorrow. Mix of sun and cloud expected for the afternoon. Breezy winds and a further chance of flurries in the province of Nova Scotia. Again, expected to be scattered in their coverage. Here's a look at the winds in the forecast for Wednesday. They'll be out of the northwest. They'll be sustained in a lot of cases near 20 kilometers per hour with some gusts up between 20 and 40. May peak closer to 50 around parts of the coastline of Nova Scotia. Low temperatures in the forecast for tonight for the region. Quite cold. Expected to be well down to the minus teens for most areas in New Brunswick and Prince Edward Island. Even very cold for some northern areas of Nova Scotia. Truro tonight could get down to around minus 18, minus 17 for Antigonish. Highs for tomorrow, minus 8 to minus 12 in the north of New Brunswick. Central and southern parts of the province with highs mostly between minus 7 and minus 10. Prince Edward Island on Wednesday, afternoon high temperatures minus 8 to minus 10. Very cold tomorrow in the east of Nova Scotia. Cape Breton minus 7 to minus 10. And on the eastern shore and north shore between minus 7 and minus 9. Northern and central areas of Nova Scotia, similar range of high temperatures, minus 7 to minus 9. So daytime highs several degrees below zero. Minus 9 for the Annapolis Valley, and on the south shore of Nova Scotia, highs between minus 7 and minus 9. In the extended forecast for New Brunswick, remains cold through the end of this week. See some flurries, especially for northern parts of the province on both Thursday and Friday. Mix of sun and cloud for Saturday. Potential for that snow Sunday into Monday, followed by a chance of flurries on Tuesday. For Nova Scotia in the forecast, again, very cold as we head towards Thursday and Friday. Flurries maybe a little bit more widespread at the end of this week. There'll be a chance of flurries on Saturday. Potential for that snow late Sunday into Monday morning, followed by a chance of flurries after that on Tuesday. And for Prince Edward Island in the forecast, colder temperatures carry on through the end of this week. Start of the weekend, Saturday, mix of sun and cloud, highs around minus 6. May see snow arrive late on Sunday, but ongoing into at least the first part of the day on Monday. After that, a chance of flurries on Tuesday. Todd.
Very good. Thank you, Kalen. We'll see you at the end of the show for the Wake Up Weather. Next, opposing versions of a Carney-Trump conversation. And could we be in for a snap election? We'll talk politics next. And then we have the scene.
Hi, this is Brian Greenway from April Wine, and we are coming to the Maritimes this summer with Triumph. So I hope to see everybody out there this summer. It's the summer of rock. Stay tuned. We'll tell you more about it coming up.
Welcome back. Parliament has resumed, where there's lots of talk of a GST rebate, concerns over trade, of course, rumors of a snap election. Here to guide us through all of it is Laurie Turnbull with Dalhousie University's Faculty of Management in Ottawa. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Thanks for having me.
Let's start with the latest salvo in the relationship with the U.S. The Prime Minister said he told the American president he stands by his Davos speech. The White House is claiming he walked back his comments. Who's right, and does it even matter?
I don't think I believe that the Prime Minister is walking back anything. And, you know, if anything, Prime Minister Carney has said, I meant what I said. And there certainly was no hesitation in his voice when he delivered that speech in Davos. I mean, I find it difficult to believe anything really that comes out of the White House these days. And even if you did, the president just contradicts himself.
Powers must act together because if
so, I think that probably this is. I'm not worried about anything the White House is saying at this point.
Yeah, I wonder if it's framing it for a win, which we know the U.S. president likes everything to be in terms of wins and losses.
Wins and losses, and also deference. He wants to create a sense that people are going to tiptoe around him. And he was issuing these sorts of warnings to the Prime Minister around, you know, Canada should be grateful. Canada's not grateful. Think about that the next time you deliver one of your speeches, kind of thing. And so I wonder if they're trying to give out this narrative that the Prime Minister has somehow reconsidered what he thought and what he said, and that he's coming back to sort of seek the forgiveness of the president. And I don't believe any of that for a moment. Not at all. I think this was extremely deliberate, the remarks that the Prime Minister gave in Davos a week ago. And so I would just take this as posturing and narrative spinning from the White House at this point.
Okay, one more question sort of in this vein. Trade lead Dominic LeBlanc said yesterday, you sort of alluded to there's talks about talks, that there's talks about CUSMA negotiations. Where do you think those stand? Because it's been murky for a while.
Right. I mean, it's time for a CUSMA review. And we have heard lots from the United States side about, you know, maybe they're not interested in doing this at all. And the president has said that CUSMA is irrelevant to him. But at the same time, officials from both sides have been working on what a renewed deal could look like. And before the holiday, when the president, you know, when there were people in Congress talking about, you know, from the stakeholder side of it, what does this free trade agreement mean to them? Many of them said, look, you know, we don't necessarily want to keep it exactly the way it is. There are some changes that could be made. And I think there's a lot of interest, for example, and this is going to be very controversial, in a greater American presence in the dairy market in Canada, for example, which is going to be a tricky one to navigate.
Supply management, yeah.
Exactly. But at the same time, there seems to be an appetite on the American side to continue with this arrangement in some form. And so the president would have heard that. And so, you know, is he going to be so brazen as to sort of throw it aside and say he's not going to go along with this? But the negotiations are going to be very tricky. And I think against the backdrop of perhaps a deeper relationship between Canada and China, I think this is largely about that as well. In some ways, when the president is talking about Canada, he's calling Prime Minister Carney governor. This is to suggest that actually Canada is not a real country. And what they're really interested in is the presence of China and Chinese goods in Canada as a kind of, you know, as he says, as a drop-off point. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot to unpack.
I want to get your thoughts on this. Yesterday, we saw the Prime Minister unveil his GST rebate in a grocery store. Boy, it looked a lot like a campaign stop. And there's even been a bit of rumblings about, could there be a snap election? How do you read the tea leaves?
Well, I think in ordinary time, if we see a prime minister make an announcement like that, that seems to be geared toward a kind of a crowd pleaser, a direct deposit into people's accounts, depending on whether you qualify for this or not. Like that sort of announcement tends to tee up an election. There's no question. But I think in this case, the prime minister would be aware of the fact that people's chief concern right now is uncertainty, in whatever form it's coming to them. And so putting people in the position of having to choose another government in the middle of that, I'm not sure that a prime minister, any prime minister, would want to test the public to see whether they will return the kind of result he wants. He has a minority, but he's got a very large one. And there's going to be a couple of by-elections to come up. And there's still rumblings here in Ottawa about whether more people will cross the floor from the Conservative bench to the Liberal one. And so I'm not convinced that he would see an election as a worthwhile risk at this point. And I think there's a real risk that the public would backlash over that.
Okay, well, that's a lot to consider. Laurie Turnbull, Dalhousie Faculty of Management, we always appreciate your time and your input. Thank you.
Thank you, too. Thanks for having me.
We'll take a break. We'll be back with much more after this. In our nightly health report, we look at how the cold can impact your heart. Timely with all that shoveling. CTV's Amanda Debison has more in the Tuesday edition of The Lifeline.
Frigid temperatures can affect your body in many ways, but it can be especially hard on your heart, which is why experts say you should avoid exerting yourself in cold weather, especially if you have medical conditions like heart disease or high blood pressure.
This is why we tend to see a number of heart attacks or cardiac consequences when people are shoveling snow or doing a lot of heavy effort, high intense work in cold weather or snowy conditions.
Cardiologist Dr. Tamana Singh says in the cold, our bodies are working to maintain core temperature, straining the heart. As blood vessels constrict, blood pressure and heart rate both rise. For those who already have heart problems, it can be dangerous.
Put in some breaks if you're shoveling. Ask for some help. If there's a better time of day to do some of that shoveling, like under the heat of the sun, I would certainly advocate for that.
Red flag symptoms to watch for include chest pain or discomfort, jaw pain or tightness, and general unease. Dr. Singh says if something feels off, get inside and call 911. With Health and Medical News, I'm Amanda Debison for The Lifeline.
On the scene with Katie Kelly, one of the biggest names in Canadian rock history, coming home.
That's right, Todd. April Wine is hitting the road this year. They're joining fellow Canadian rock icons Triumph, who will be on their first major tour in decades.
Yeah.
April Wine have remained a cornerstone of Canadian classic rock for more than 5 decades.
I'd say that this particular lineup we have is the strongest since the 5-piece in the late 70s and early 80s.
While the band's current lineup is spread across Canada, for Maritimers, their East Coast origins still hit close to home.
It was part of the band's DNA, and as far as I'm concerned, it still is. No matter where we end up being from, have our roots in Nova Scotia.
Current longest-serving member Brian Greenway joined back in '77 and says touring with April Wine is just as exciting today.
Yeah, I love it. Just something I love to do. I'm probably the only person in the band that loves it that much, like in the arenas, in the bus, you know. I'd love the smell of it. It's runaway joy in the circus.
They're getting set to rock North America with Triumph, reuniting two bands with a shared history.
We did some shows together in Texas in '81, '82. One I remember. I think it's going to be a great package. Mm-hmm. Two Canadian rock bands. You know, it's good. A night of rock.
As guests of Triumph, April Wine hits Halifax April 28th at the Scotia Bank Centre and Moncton April 29th at the Avenir Centre. The band says, as always, the Maritime shows will be extra special.
It's always a treat. That when we were last there with BTO last May, it was one of the biggest, loudest crowds of the whole tour. It just felt good, you know.
I love that. He's talking about a tour in 1981.
I know.
So long ago.
I know. I don't remember that time.
Wow. And you play a April Wine tune on your way into work every day?
Yes, every single day.
Same one?
Well, several, but What a Night is always on the list every single day.
Josh said that we have to play that song for the baby every day, so that's what I do.
The baby will...
The baby will know all
as
the
soon as it hears that
April
ding,
Wine
ding, 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 yeah. 2026 Juno nominations are out. Maritimers, hey, come on, they're showing up in a big way, right?
Yes, it's so exciting. Nova Scotia's Goldie Boutillier is nominated for Breakthrough Artist of the Year. Goldie is joined by a strong list of East Coast talent with nods across multiple categories, including Heather McIsaac, Morgan Toney, Cloverdale, Rose Cousins, Amy Brandon, Circuit, Miss Emily, Sarah McLachlan, Matt Anderson, Cassie and Maggie. We have some honorary Maritimers, Bahamas, Maestro Fresh West. The 55th Juno Awards will be handed out March 29th this year from Hamilton, and we have lots of reasons to celebrate.
All right, long list. And speaking of awards, the roads to the ECMAs begin tomorrow.
Yes, the East Coast Music Association is set to announce the 2026 ECMA nominees. The press conference gets underway at 11 a.m. Atlantic, and we're going to be live streaming it on our website, ctvatlanticnews.ca. We'll have the announcements, the performances, and a first look at what's ahead as ECMA 2026 heads to Sydney, Cape Breton this May. You can watch it live tomorrow at 11. I'll also have the highlights right here on CTV News at 6 tomorrow night.
Yes, you will. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We'll be back with business after this. Taking a look at business on the markets, the Dow ended the day down 408 points. It's earnings season. Today, a Canadian grocer shared its financial results. B&M Bloomberg's Marilla Fernandez has the numbers.
Metro reported first quarter results that missed the mark. The grocery store chain says net earnings dropped almost 13% year over year because of what it calls a challenging operating environment. A temporary shutdown of a frozen food distribution center weighed on Metro last year. Despite the miss, the grocer is hiking its quarterly dividend. Here are the closing numbers for the day. The Canadian dollar is down to 73.64. West Texas Intermediate is up $1.76 to 62.39. Western Canadian Select down to 44.87. And the TSX gained just 3 points today. Those are your business headlines. I'm Marilla Fernandez.
Kayla Mitchell with a final look at the weather tonight.
Yeah, thank you, Todd. And earlier I mentioned that I had a viewer report from Grand Manan that estimated that at least some of the drifts could have been 30 to 40 centimeters. And here's that picture from Grand Manan featuring some tracks in the deep snow there from this latest weather system. This was sent in from Ann Wetzel. I want to thank Ann very much for taking the time to send me the report and those pictures. Grand Manan for tomorrow, well, it's a cold day. It's going to be a mix of sun and cloud, the high temperature of around -8. Very cold tonight and very cold to start the day tomorrow around the Maritimes. Most morning temperatures will be down in the minus double digits, partly cloudy skies. Likely to still be some scattered flurries around through the day on Wednesday for areas of Nova Scotia. Highest chance of flurries in the west of the province as well as around the North Shore and in Cape Breton. Moving into the afternoon, other parts of the region looking at a mix of sun and cloud, breezy northwest winds and daytime high temperatures that for the most part are going to be held several degrees below the freezing mark. Well, let's find out what's coming up on Your Morning Atlantic.
Wednesday on Your Morning Atlantic, celebrations and revelations.
African Heritage Month starts this weekend, and we'll chat with musician Jamila about her upcoming show that combines music, heritage, and storytelling.
Start your morning with us Wednesday on Your Morning Atlantic on CTV2 and Crave.
Finally for us tonight, here's one way to deal with all that snow. Let AI handle it. One homeowner in New Jersey decided to let a robot do the cleanup while he stayed warm inside. Now the video of his autonomous snowblower is going viral, racking up millions of views. Once programmed, the machine works on its own, starting when the snow does. It ran through the night and returned to its charging dock as needed. The robot's owner admits it took a lot of work and programming, but says this is a glimpse of how technology is changing everyday chores. I hope it works better than my Roomba. That is a look at our day here at home and in New Jersey. Bruce Frisco is here at 11:30. CTV News Atlantic.ca updates the stories and has our poll. I'm glad you joined us tonight. We hope to see you right back here tomorrow night for 6 o'clock news. I'm Todd Battis. Till then, have a good night.
CTV News, the Maritime's #1 newscast. Watch live on Crave.